Good afternoon and welcome to EHC-TV. I'm Madi Codispoti with your feature interview. In January of 2022, the college announced its plans to construct student apartments. This past January, the college held a groundbreaking at the site of the living complex. But what does the progress for these apartments look like? Joining me today is Vice President for Administration and Legal Counsel, Mark Graham. Mark, how are you?
Great, glad to be with you.
Yeah. So since the groundbreaking in January, what kind of progress has been made?
Well, all of construction is kind of weather dependent, and so they've had some challenges with the weather up there, but they do have the concrete foundation in place now, and all of the road going up to the property is in, the plumbing is in, and so the walls have started, and so they assure me that should be under roof within about 3 weeks.
Yeah. And can you give us just kind of a brief description of what the complex or the apartment will look like once it's completed?
It's a 24-unit apartment complex, more apartment-style housing. There are 96 total beds in the apartments. So I think it'll be mainly for upper-class students who are transitioning to, apartment life on their own, and so we think everybody will be very excited about it.
Yeah, and obviously the construction of this new building will open it up for more students here on the campus. Does the college have a plan for kind of the influx of students they expect?
Yes, we will be closing a number of the off-campus sites that we've acquired over the last few years to kind of accommodate the growth in housing. So I know Watson is closing, I know Bingham is closing, the Martin complex is closing. So that'll draw students back closer to campus, and so that will help alleviate some of the parking and traffic congestion from folks that are commuting back and forth. But we have applied for a VDOT grant. We're trying to figure out how we can get students back to campus more expeditiously. So whether that's going to be a shuttle, whether that's going to be some sort of sidewalks to campus and tie into the new sports complex and the equestrian center, or how that's going to work exactly, we don't know just yet, which is why we're applying for this grant. I know it's a real challenge to get across College Drive because people tend to not any of our college students, I'm sure, but a lot of high school students and folks in the community coming through there pretty quickly, and it's a little dangerous. So we do anticipate that people will be driving to campus, and we'll make accommodations for that. And we're also looking into whether we ought to be running a shuttle service or something back and forth over to the new apartments.
Yeah. And you briefly mentioned parking, and so currently there's kind of a shortage on parking with the construction of the new School of Business. Does the college have a plan to combat that as well?
Well, the School of Business is moving along. That ought to be open late this spring, so we anticipate as part of that we'll be repaving that whole lot, and that will be opened back up, although some of that will be for School of Business parking and for employees and the sorts that are frequenting buyers. So that will help alleviate some of the parking concerns right there. I would say there's plenty of parking on campus. It's just not always exactly where everybody wants to be. So there's plenty of parking, for example, at the chapel and across the street from the chapel. There's plenty of parking up in the village area. And so if we could get the folks in Elm and Hickory to park behind the stadium, parking in that area, generally that would free up the MCA parking lots for commuters and folks. We will count people living in those new apartments as commuters for purposes of coming back and forth to campus, because we know they'll need to drive and get there. So I think all that will work itself out.
Yeah. And so when the project was first announced, the idea was for it to be finished in the spring of 23. What does the kind of timeline look like for this project now?
Well, that was probably a best case scenario. We're still seeing in the construction market, we're seeing that with the School of Business as well. And everything that we're doing, the sports complex, everything with supply chain issues and things, labor market's still tight. So things are definitely moving slower than they used to. So we're just having to work with them. So we do anticipate, though, that the new housing will be opening up that for registration here soon. I know we've been working with Daryl Glenn, the housing director, on that issue. So that will be in the mix and in the queue for next year for fall. So that will be available for rental in the fall.
Yeah. And you mentioned some of the features that these apartments will have. How will these apartments kind of differ from other upperclassmen housing here on campus?
Well, it'll be similar to what's in the Village. Those are 3 apartment complexes. These will be 2 apartment complexes. So you've got 2 bedrooms with a shared common area, you know, living room and kitchen, but they'll each have their own separate bath. So they're mainly 2-bedroom units.
Gotcha. All right, well, thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate it.
Glad to be here, Maddie.
Yeah. Thank you for joining me today. That's all for this week's feature interview. I'm Madi Codispoti. Have a great week.